The Shooting Range. In this episode, pages of history, an SPG's unexpected fate, Arsenal, exploring the Desert Lion's arsenals, and Metal Beasts, Battle Pass Strike Classics. We've already talked about the ground reward of the Airborne General Battle Pass, so it's time to discuss the main aircraft prize, which, by the way, you can get for free. Please welcome the IL-8, the improved version of the legendary Soviet Shturmovik. On the outside, this machine is almost identical to its predecessor, but the main differences are inside. The hood of this aircraft hides a stronger engine capable of pulling 2,000 horsepower. It doesn't make it a fighter, of course, but it still ensures a nice buff to speed. And that's with a higher mass, by the way. Unlike the IL-2, this aircraft has steel armor for the rear gunner as well. Still, the new features make almost no difference in terms of aerial battle tactics. Compared to fighters, this aircraft is still reluctant in climbs, which often puts it into the defensive position. And there's basically one single way out: try to force a frontal attack. The IL-8 is armored well enough to survive the encounter, while few opponents can stand the punch it packs. In addition to machine guns, this strike aircraft is also armed with two 23mm autocannons. They can shoot devastating fragmentation incendiary rounds with a decent rate of fire and great accuracy. Any single-engined fighter can be rendered unfit to fly after just a few hits, and if the IL-8 meets a bomber, it can become a fighter itself. Don't forget about the rear turret, by the way. Yes, a single large-caliber machine gun can't create an impenetrable lead barrier, but a good engine hit is a nice deterrent for chasers. Okay, aerial battles are good. But weren't IL attack aircraft famous for something else? Right. The IL-8 can carry up to a ton of payload. It can't offer unguided rockets, but a wide choice of bombs is a good thing too. The calling card, and also the main firepower of this new aircraft, is two 500-kilogram bombs. You usually see this caliber on bombers only, but this is a single-engine machine, and it has decent flight performance. 2 successful drops can net you 2 guaranteed frags in each fight, and if you spot a group, 2 can turn into more. Just don't forget to set your fuse to at least 1.5 seconds unless you want to join one of those guaranteed frags. If you want a challenge, try a set of 6 100-kilogram bombs. They require much more accuracy but give you more versatility thanks to a larger number of drops. And when the IL-8 drops its gifts, it can still use its good old 23mm autocannons with armor-piercing rounds. That's when you can fully immerse yourself into the ground attack aircraft experience. The Second World War forced military engineers to search for new approaches to old solutions. The British made the Centurion MBT, trying to combine the best qualities of different classes in a single machine. The Soviet effort to improve the T-34 resulted in the T-44, a predecessor of Soviet MBTs. The Germans could produce a small revolution with their Waffenträger project, which was a combination of an artillery truck and an SPG. Germany failed to establish mass production before the end of the war, but the idea behind the Waffenträger was never lost. Around the same time, Lev Gorlitsky, the lead engineer of the Su-85, Su-100, and Su-122, was looking for solutions to the most widespread issues on Soviet SPGs, namely the increased load on the front wheels and limited gun traverse angles. One of the options considered was a layout with the turret in the rear. After the war was over, Gorlitsky's design bureau received a trophy Waffenträger. Studying the German machine and the American tactics of using the Hellcats created a push to develop a light, self-propelled gun with an unconventional design for Soviet vehicles. The crew compartment was placed in the rear while the engine went to the front. The engineers also designed a unique chassis with 7 pairs of rubberized road wheels and an 8-gear transmission. The chassis was meant to provide a good level of mobility, while the small size and a 155-degree gun traverse could help it attack from both direct and indirect firing positions. With all of those pros, the SPG also weighed just a little bit more than 20 tons. The engineers also planned to fit the Su-100P with a 100mm gun. There was also another option, with the D-50, a 152mm howitzer, designated the Su-152G. The test stage uncovered issues with the transmission and the gearbox, but the military appreciated the concept of the Su-100P. The team received a recommendation to get the SPG into shape. Fixing the flaws and issues took another 5 years, but by that time, large-caliber tank destroyers were already going out of fashion. The Soviet Army was planning to switch to missiles and rockets, so the Su-100P only got a tiny batch of 14 units. The SPG was soon decommissioned, but its chassis got a life of its own. It became somewhat of a standard for Soviet engineers in those years. The chassis was used in the 2K-11 Kruk, a surface-to-air missile system, in the 2S-4 Tulpan, a self-propelled mortar, in the 2S-3 Akatsiya, in a BTR, in a firefighting vehicle, and even in a self-propelled searchlight. There were thousands of vehicles using the Su-100P's chassis, even excluding experimental vehicles like the Object 120. And while the Soviet Waffenträger itself was never accepted into service in the Soviet Union proper, the engineers did create a truly versatile platform for combat vehicles used across the world even today. A local solution went far beyond the scope of the original task, outliving its creators and finding new, completely unexpected shapes. We continue to explore the arsenals of aircraft from various nations, and today we'd like to focus on the Israeli Kfir fighters. Compared to their predecessors, the French Mirages, they have a wider choice of suspended armament, so let's try to find the best options out there. We'll start with air combat sets. Depending on the modification, these fighters can carry between 2 and 4 close-range air-to-air missiles. There are many types of AAMs available, but the best one is clear: the Israeli Python 3. It has an all-aspect homing device, great speed, and decent maneuverability. The Kfir Kanar has the rear aspect AIM-9G, which shows a less stellar performance, but this modification also has a lower battle rate. In addition to missiles, Israeli fighters can carry gun pods, significantly increasing their firepower. Unfortunately, firing them isn't the most convenient affair. Even short bursts cause significant recoil, disrupting aim and requiring extra effort to counter. Besides, extra gun pods degrade flight performance and force the C-7 to sacrifice a couple missiles, so we can't recommend them to all pilots. The choice of armament for mixed battles is much richer. Each aircraft of this family can carry multiple types of rockets and bombs of various calibers. It's easy to get lost in this variety, so let's go hardpoint by hardpoint. The external ones are always reserved for air-to-air missiles. The neighboring internal wing hardpoints, though, can be filled with all kinds of ordnance. First, you can add the gun pods that we've already discussed. They're not very useful in air combat, but for close air support, a couple of Vulcans are a great budget choice. Even with a standard belt, they can easily demolish lightly armored vehicles like anti-air guns. As for strong recoil, you can get used to it and adjust your aim in advance. Another way to fill the internal wing hardpoints is unguided rockets. Our choice is the large caliber Zuni. It's a handy tool against air defenses. Moving on to bombs. Among all the various calibers, we recommend going for 1,000 or 2,000 pound ones. They have enough explosives to damage tanks even with indirect hits. Extra 1,000-pound bombs can go under the air intakes and to the rear. There's little sense in using smaller calibers here. There's also the central hardpoint, which you can fill with 500-pound bombs. They're not terribly convenient though, so it might make sense to keep this hardpoint unoccupied and lighten the aircraft. Well, there's always room for experiments here. Share your favorite loadouts in the comments. And what vehicles would you like to see next? Meanwhile, we'll answer some of your questions from the comments. The The first question was sent by a player called Rayoflaws007. What does the American F-15 have in the left drift at the top? Hi there. It's a radar warning antenna that helps pilots detect threats on time. By the way, it's a unique feature of the American F-15. The Japanese and Israeli versions have symmetrical keels. Broken Heart asks, is the STRV-103C good at its BR? Hi, Broken Heart. The STRV-103 isn't a simple vehicle to master. You might want to treat it as an SPG that feels great in a comfortable firing position, but a bit unsure in close quarters combat. If you get used to this Swedish vehicle, though, you can be pretty successful. Another question comes from Oscar. What are those holes that the M60 AMBT has next to the driver's hatch? It also has those holes in the back at the corners of the engine. Hi, Oscar. You're probably talking about the 360 vision system. It allows the crew to control the environment around the machine. Flip and Burn writes, why do some ships like the USS Mississippi, the USS Nevada, or the USS Arkansas have extra anchor chains going to the bottom of the bow into the water, despite the anchor being raised? Hi, Flip and Burn. Those chains aren't meant for anchors, actually. They're used for devices called kite otters, which are towed by ships and protect them against mines. And the last comment for today was written by Mad. Will Germany get some sort of F-16? Hello, Mad. Germany never had F-16s in service, but it did have other planes that can make their debuts in our game. For now, the East German MiG-29s are pretty good at performing the top fighter role. That's it for today. You've been watching The Shooting Range by Gaijin Entertainment, and the next episode will premiere the following Sunday at 4 p.m. GMT or noon Eastern Time. Subscribe and click the bell if you don't want to miss our next videos. Don't forget to check the blinker fluid on your beloved Tiger. Leave a like, share your thoughts and comments, and see you next week.